Hello, my name is Louise Han, and today I'll be presenting abuse of power in animal experimentation. My research question is, to what extent do unequal power cause constraints for laboratory animals in Asia from the 19th century to the present, and what are possible solutions to create a more ethical environment for them? Evaluate the power structure between humans and laboratory animals by analyzing specific animal legislations in cases in Asia, specifically China and South Korea. Animal experimentation refers to the procedures performed on living animals for the purposes of 1. Biomedical research, 2. Assessing the effectiveness of medicinal products, 3. Testing human health or environmental safety of a consumer or industry products. According to Humane Society International, more than 115 million animals worldwide are used in laboratory experiments every year. It is said that Aristotle and Erasistratus were the first ones to discover animal testing. Vivisections were performed for the sole purpose of satisfying anatomical curiosity. However, in the 17th century, physiological experiments were carried out for scientific progress. Animal rights first became recognized in America and Europe, and there was a formation of animal cruelty societies, and soon discussion on ethics became issued. Animal testing is an essential component of every field of medical research and have been a significant contributor to improved human health. The current status quo is it is unethical to use a new drug or surgical procedure first on humans because of the possibility of causing harm rather than good. An example of this is the polio vaccine. Rhesus monkeys were used to discover that a modified living virus can be used to immunize monkeys against infection. After this vaccine became in use in the United States, there was a decrease of 58,000 to 4 polio cases in just 32 years. Out of the 4 ways power can be used, humans exert power over animals in animal experimentation. In the human society, animals are considered voiceless as they cannot voice their own opinions, while in contrast, humans can. This distinction allows humans to exploit them. From the SEEP factors, this abuse of power is related to social and political factors, and this will be expanded in my further case studies. Before moving on to our case study, the 3 concepts will be identified. Time is 19th century to the present. Place is animal testing is in use for the sake of human benefit and health. Space is Asia, specifically China and South Korea. Our first case study is South Korea. We'll first start with the statistics. According to the results of animal experimentation survey conducted by Humane Society International, there was an overall increase in the use of animal experimentation. In addition, compared to 2016, there has been a 43.8% increase in animal testing in 2020 in South Korea. To add on, there was a 900% increase in efficacy testing from 2019 to 2020. There is a high chance that this is linked to COVID-19 and the development of vaccinations and cures. In Korea, animal testing is divided into 6 pain classifications, Class A, which invertebrates are used, and no committee approval is required, to Class C, which is accompanied by extreme pain or oppression. Level D is the target for surgery, and Level E is the target for operations performed without anesthesia, so almost death occurs inevitably in the course of the experiment. 40.1% of laboratory animals are subjected to pain Level E experiments. One of the most common animals that go through Level D or E experiments are dogs, specifically beagles. Now we will be looking into the abuser's perspective, which are humans, on animal testing. In the modern society, animal testing allowed drugs to develop and allowed people to enjoy the benefits of living a long life. Korea Biotechnology Research Center states that animal experiment is crucial because 1. Some animals and humans share similar mechanisms to those of humans, which makes them ideal subjects for animal testing. 2. Since some animals have a relatively short lifespan compared to humans, genetics can be easily studied. 3. It is easy to control the environment that affects the experiment. 4. It is unethical to directly experiment on humans. Now we will be looking into the victim's perspective, specifically beagles. Due to their curious and active nature and their amiable personality with humans, they are known to be less resistant to repeated experiments, making them more suitable for higher pain experiments. Experimental beagles are trained to suppress their specific habits from birth to make them suitable for research, such as repressing screaming when feeling signs of pain. Most dogs raised solely for scientific purposes are euthanized after the experiment is over. In addition, in South Korea, the ethical consideration for animal experimentation does not have proper regulation. An example of this is May, who was a quarantine detection dog that died during the experiment after being transferred to Seoul National University for an animal experiment conducted by Professor Lee Byung-chun's team. After 8 months of being transferred, KBS News reported a video of May, and May was extremely underweight, her genitals were abnormally swollen, and had a nosebleed. Eventually, May's death was reported to the public 2 months after her death, and was claimed to be a natural cause, when it clearly showed that the animal was under severe stress and pain. Article 24 of the Animal Protection Act states that experiments on animals that have served people or the country, such as assistant dogs for the disabled, are prohibited. However, in the case of experiments on special purpose dogs, the exception stipulates that even working dogs may be used for scientific research on the ecology and behavior of animals. Therefore, it seems May could have been used for experiments even after retirement based on an exception clause. Due to these certain exceptions, victims can be subjected to animal experimentation. Now we will be moving on to our second case, China. Legislations against the cruelty of an animal as a whole is very underdeveloped in China. Overall, two groups can be identified regarding animal experimentation, the conservatives and the activists. Now we will look into two groups of the abuser's perspective, which are humans. The conservatives believe that China's development of animal welfare laws can infringe upon traditions of Chinese dog meat. Even the government isn't conservative, as he is reluctant to establish animal welfare acts, as he believes it would hurt economic growth and development. While in contrast, activists, who are mostly pet owners, show an increase towards the concern of animal welfare and is shifting towards the preference of cruelty-free products. In 2021, China implemented changes to its animal testing laws. General cosmetics, under approval from the government, will be exempt from their animal testing regulations. However, there are certain limitations. It is up to the company to test or to not at the end. Gaining an exemption from the government is very difficult, as the company must 1. Obtain GMP certifications issued and granted by a local government cosmetic authority, and 2. Provide a safety assessment that can fully confirm the safety of the products. China is not as mature as Europe. In the current market, there are few institutions that provide the service of safety assessment. The abolishment of animal testing is the trend, but it still depends on the current situation in the Chinese market. This is a quote by Vicky Sun. This further supports that brands unable or unwilling to take the necessary steps to obtain the difficult process of bypassing animal testing will continue to test. An example of an invisible space of power was Avon, Mary Kay, and Estee Lauder's resume on animal tests in China while claiming to their public their no animal testing policies in 2012. All three companies were among the first large international cosmetic manufacturers to ban all tests on animals and embraced cruelty-free their campaigns and slogans. However, in order to market products in China before 2021, animal testing is mandated, and these three companies agreed to tests without objection. It was confirmed by the companies through the PETA organization that chemicals were dropped into rabbits' eyes and animal skin. Now we will be looking into the forms of power. Case 1, although it is revealed to the public that beagles are frequently used in research in South Korea, violating basic animal rights, and experiments such as the May incident is disclosed and therefore invisible to the public. Case 2, referring to discrepancies between cruelty and cruelty-free in cosmetics companies, are disclosed to the public and therefore is a hidden power. China is notoriously known for being difficult to gather animal testing statistics, as most of its tests are covered. In spaces of power, both of these examples are set in the closed space of power, as rules, decisions, and ideas are kept confidential with a select party and is intended to not be revealed. Now we will be looking into solutions for this abuse of power. What is being done to address this unequal power? People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals is an influential animal rights organization with over 9 million members. PETA has led numerous successful campaigns to decrease unethical and unnecessary testing. After years of pressure from the PETA, the Institute for Vitro Sciences, and some cosmetics companies in 2019, the Chinese government approved 2 more non-animal methods for testing cosmetic products. In addition, Humane Society International works towards coexistence between humans and animals globally and confronts cruelty of all kinds. HSI works through intergovernmental bodies such as the OECD to accelerate global adoption of modern non-animal testing methods and have these approaches taken up to national regulations. Recently, they have been working towards mandatory alternatives requirements in South Korea. Through the case studies, 3 common problems were able to be identified. 1. Minimum animal welfare is not ensured nor provided for the laboratory animals. 2. Regulation of animal testing is weak, meaning that many opportunities are given for the experimenters and companies to conduct unnecessary experiments. 3. Citizens have inadequate education and recognition for the process of animal testing. A solution for problem 1 is the adoption of enrichment for laboratory animals in the Animal Protection Act. Enrichment refers to creating a natural environment so that the animals can express their natural behaviors in experimental process and expand the range of choices of the environment. Although some researchers may argue that enrichment can cause deviations from the standard experimental procedures, experts from the Action for Animals state that enrichment can help create good data by protecting the health of animals. For example, for experimental dogs, habitats should be designed so that animals can behave naturally in a limited space and be given opportunities to socialize with other dogs so that sufficient communication between the experimenter is possible, allowing dogs to make contact with each other visually, olfactory, or auditory. A variety of toys should be provided in the breeding room to stimulate curiosity so that they could play with their favorite objects. In addition, their welfare and sentiment as an animal will be considered. How will this be applied? In order to establish this facility in animal experiment labs, government funds need to be requested to reimburse for the cost. A solution to problem 2 is to accelerate the process of replacing animal testing with alternative methods for testing. Alternative techniques such as organ-on-chips have been designed to show functional responses on the level of organs and tissues, and these kind of inventions have shown hope to replace animal testing in the near future. An advantage is that with the development of alternative methods, they will be able to benefit from successful research without the use of animals. How will this be applied? Although it is best for animal testing to be fully replaced, it is difficult and unrealistic to expect this in the short-term years. Approximately $5 to $9 billion are funded on animal use in biomedical and agricultural research by the government and corporations. Research funds should gradually shift from animal testing to developing alternative methods for testing until it becomes in full use and is adopted by more countries. A solution to problem 3 is to increase the transparency of animal testing for citizens by prohibiting euthanasia and retesting post-experiment and adopting adoption programs for these animals, which will eventually increase the level of education regarding animal testing. In countries such as South Korea and China, experimenters have the right to end the animal's life after the experiment, as they have the right to determine whether the animal is able to fully recover or not. However, with this solution, more animals will be given a chance to live and have their own families. However, if ownership is granted to an individual through the adoption, it is important that the individual receives proper education about the experimental animal before its adoption, and the animal is regularly monitored even after by experts. This means that new guidelines regarding experimental animal adoption needs to be established. It is recommended that cooperation with third-party organizations, such as animal protection groups with successful adoption cases of experimental animals, is considered. How can you be involved? In order for these solutions to be established, approval from the government must be involved. As citizens, here are some actions you can take to motivate the government to turn away from animal experimentation. Number 1. Boycott animal testing products. By boycotting, animal testing companies will become motivated to change to non-animal testing as there is a decrease in sales. To reach a larger audience, you could also post boycotting on your social media. In order for you to determine which company is cruelty-free and which companies are not cruelty-free, you can look into the PETA website, which provides a list of companies that do not test and do test on animals. You can also look out for these logos on your products to show that they're cruelty-free. In addition, you could support your local or international organizations. By funding animal welfare organizations that are carrying out public campaigns and legislative activities, your support can be used to urge governments to improve laws and systems to develop and use alternative materials to stop unnecessary vivo experiments. Some organizations include 동물 자유연대 in South Korea, CARA, PETA, HSI International, Beagle Rescue Network, etc. Lastly, you could contact your local legislators through calls or letters to urge your support for banning animal testing and supporting other successful testing methods today. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Mahatma Gandhi. Although animal testing has provided humanity with significant numbers of benefits, we must consider that animals are living beings of their own, and it is not morally correct to exploit them solely under the sake of scientific purposes. Thank you.